ahead and get started today. We really appreciate you joining us. And we're going to talk about really the crucial aspect of building, empowering, and retaining high-performing talent at your law firm today. So I'm excited to be joined by Jennifer Gillman from Gillman Strategic Group, who will bring her vast experience in both practicing the law as well as really facilitating those ideal matches between lawyers and law firms. So together, we're going to discuss some key trends from the latter half of 2023 and really offer kind of some valuable insights into 2024 decision-making. So let's, shed light on some technology and really how it can seamlessly integrate into your daily processes. And really for those new hires, you want to empower them and you want to empower your current staff. So we're hoping that you gain some practical tips and some useful advice to really help secure and retain top talent for your law firm. Just two quick housekeeping notes. We do have a Q&A feature for this webinar. So if you have any questions kind of throughout the presentation, feel free to kind of drop those in and we'll try and save some time at the end to go over those questions. And then also just wanted to kind of let everybody know that we are going to be recording this webinar as well. So feel free to take all the notes you want, but know you're going to get a copy of this recording probably tomorrow in your email inbox. So let's kind of get rolling here. So, before we get too far into things, I thought we'd start by introducing you to today's speakers. So I'll start with myself. My name is Libby Luff, and I really get the opportunity to lead strategic partnerships here at PracticePanther, which ultimately means I get the privilege of collaborating with state and local bars, with legal consultants and professionals, practitioners, just like Jennifer, and even our customers to help find ways to support and empower law firms on how they can efficiently and effectively manage their firms. So today is my pleasure to introduce you to Jennifer Gillman. Over the last year, I really had the fortune of networking with and learning from Jennifer, and I'm really excited she'll be sharing really some of her insights with you today. So I'll go ahead and pass the floor to Jennifer, and she can take a moment to share her experiences and background.
Well, thank you very much, Libby. As Libby said, I am Jennifer Gillman. I'm a former practicing attorney. I was a management side labor and employment lawyer. And I have become a law firm matchmaker because I have turned my talents for social matchmaking and all of my vast contacts in the legal industry to helping rainmakers find their exact right perfect fit. And at Gillman Strategic Group, we call ourselves law firm matchmakers because we are candidate facing. So we're normally helping a single partner or a group or sometimes a smaller firm to get what it is they need. Sometimes although they enjoy practicing law, they feel stuck and overwhelmed and like they just can't please their clients and the other people in their lives because they're not well resourced or appreciated in some way. And so we work with them on figuring out what their wish list is and making it so that they can get to their exact right perfect fit firm and enjoy practicing law again. A lot of people are not very complimentary of lawyers, so we feel like all the lawyers we work with need a cheerleader, and we're that.
Fantastic. I agree. Every lawyer needs a cheerleader to help themselves out. I think it's great to have that. So I appreciate you joining us today, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And then I just wanted to take a quick moment for those who are joining the call. You may not be super familiar with PracticePanther. We're the all-in-one legal practice management software, really focused on helping small and medium-sized firms across all and any and all practice areas. We strive to be the most intuitive and easy to use software on the market because, lawyers, you are using practice management software hopefully every day, and it's really there to make your life easier. So it should be pretty to look at. It should be easy to use. And so with PracticePanther, you can really enjoy that seamless case management that'll link your contacts, your matters, and your documents, whether you're in the office or you're on the go. You can kind of see we have an app, we have an iPhone, Android kind of app, or even an iPad, or if you're on, good old fashioned desktop and laptop, you can really work anytime, anywhere. And then also we'll help automate those workflows so you know what tasks to complete when things are on deadline. We offer native e-signature and two-way texting to kind of help keep your clients engaged, really engage that modern communication that a lot of clients are looking for these days. And even, you can go fully paperless with our billing and payment system, which studies are showing that law firms are getting paid faster, and you're actually collecting more when you incorporate digital payments. So we really want to make it sure all of our customers have access to this option so that they can give it to then our customer or to their clients, as we know a lot of clients prefer paying e-payments and payment plans anymore. And so let's get into our discussion for today, where we're really going to begin with these noteworthy hiring trends. Leveraging information gained through our 2024 industry report, we're actually going to share a few insights from our customers as well as lawyers surveyed to really help your firm stay agile in this ever-evolving legal landscape. After the hiring trends, Jennifer is going to guide us through some growing opportunities for your practice. And after highlighting these trending practice areas of note, she'll walk us through our third focal point, which are these strategic hiring practices. Here, we want to help your team, help build your team that not only kind of aligns with your firm's culture, but it also really propels you towards your overarching firm goals, for the month, for the year, things like that. Next, we'll want to discuss that talent pipeline and who you should be considering hiring next, depending on your current firm's needs. And we'll cap the conversation by really spotlighting the significance of incorporating technology into staff management. And I really want to share kind of how leveraging technology not only streamlines your onboarding and training, but it also enhances that efficiency of your current team and sets that stage for your future hires. And lastly, we're going to look to the future and really share some consideration for growing your team in 2024 moving forward. So let's first start here by delving into the valuable lessons we gleaned from 2023. These lessons can certainly influence your hiring strategies in 2024. We'll discuss critical factors such as salary considerations, workload dynamics, as well as technology adoption. And Jennifer will kind of hit on several practice areas reshaping today's legal scene. So let's start the discussion with a talk of salaries and what we know from 2023. So when we launched our 2024 industry report, a big part of this report was focused on these hiring opportunities and challenges that our customers, as well as small and mid-sized firms across the nation, are facing. We know overall budgets for law firms, they remain optimistic for 2024. And when it comes to attracting and retaining the right talent, small and mid-sized firms are committed to staff salaries. They are very optimistic about this. We're finding that 75% of law firms are maintaining or increasing their staff salaries. And there are a number of factors that are really influencing this. We have these kind of listed here on the right. They are looking to invest in that qualified, experienced staff members, and they're willing to pay for it. They're paying a premium for staff and lawyers with technology-efficient skills. These hires, they really need to understand the importance of a client portal, know how case management works, and really be comfortable with learning the new tech. And so they're paying that premium for it. They also aim to remain competitive with larger firms that I know Jennifer's going to talk about here in a second. And they're also they want to really invest in these niche practice areas. And so that's, what we're finding are these niche areas are a little bit more specific and can kind of demand a little bit of a higher salary. And I want to kind of have Jennifer talk about the number 4 on staying competitive.
Yeah, so as small and mid-sized firms are seeing these huge pay raises, there are first-year associates in most of the high cost of living cities starting at $225 these days. And clearly that there are not going to be smaller and mid-sized firms that are competing at that rate, but they are looking at finding ways to close the gap a little bit and finding ways to talk about why it's not just about money. So keeping an eye on, when there's a hot practice area and money talks and there are 6-figure sign-on bonuses, probably the smaller firms aren't going to be able to compete in that market. But if they do, they're hiring in a strategic way and they understand what distinguishes their firm from a big law practice, they're able to get some of that talent to come to them instead.
That's perfect. And I know as we kind of get into the presentation a little bit more, we're going to hit on a little bit more about these salaries, especially for small and mid-sized firms, because as Jennifer said, we're very aware that the 225,000, first-year associate is going to be difficult for a lot of small and mid-sized firms just based on your resources. But hang tight with us. We'll have some great tips and ideas for you. And then when it comes to workloads, now that we've kind of established those, that we are at least committed to staff salaries. We're committed to investing in those salaries, and you'd think it would be maybe easy to then find who you're looking for. We have these great salaries. We should no problem be able to fill these roles. However, it's really not what we are seeing, and you may be seeing this at your firm as well. So I wanted to take a moment and talk about really the law firm's ability to hire, because we know that law firms, they're seeing themselves, they're busier than ever. They have a lot of work coming in, but not always the staff to handle all the work, because we're finding that 86% are reporting a flat or even a decreasing trend in their staffing levels, compared to there's only 14% of firms out there that actually experienced an increase in their staff. So, that is a really, really small number. We know a lot of you guys are out there looking for really solid staff. So in response to some of these hiring challenges, we're finding firms are actively strategizing to address this issue. More than half of these firms are either intensifying their vetting process, or they're intentionally even delaying these new hires. Unfortunately, both of these decisions can have a substantial impact on law firm staff, particularly in terms of workloads. So some of the reasons we're seeing these bloated workloads is, there's really a struggle to find that experienced talent and these experienced candidates. Law firms, when they're looking for new hires, they're looking for project-ready, immediate skills, those legal research skills, drafting legal documents, client interactions, courtroom experiences, depending on what role you're hiring for. But not everybody has these experience to pull from. And then hiring managers, you're wanting that ideal candidate. So you tend to prioritize a specific match over maybe that investment in training. Maybe they're, 80% of the way there, but they need a little bit more training to get them 100% of the way. Although obviously law firms are training, there are a lot of areas for improvement on the training. And a lot of times, it's a time constraint. We're very aware you guys are busy, and it's going to be important to train.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing from my point of view is, 2020 associates started and they had a very different experience. They weren't in the office. Depending on the firm, it could have been for many, many months of that year, and it could have been for more than a year. So they missed out on some of those more casual training opportunities where you sit in a partner's office and overhear a call with an adversary or a judge or the client. There wasn't the opportunity for that casual mentorship and supervision. So, and also when courts were closed, there wasn't as much of an opportunity for courtroom skills. It's a little bit different on Zoom. It's a little bit different when, cases were stayed for a while. And so, firms are seeing that some of those class years don't have the skill sets that they would have expected.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we see as well. And all that just leads to, you're putting a little bit more work than on your current staff. And so that's where these kind of workloads, there's going to be some other things kind of happening that we'll talk about here on the next slide. But, these workloads, it just seems that staff needs a little bit more help, and we want to help with that workload. And a great way to do that is really through this tech adoption. And so what I want to share here on this slide is the way technology can really impact your hiring process. It streamlines things, it helps up-level and empower your current staff, and you can even facilitate a smoother onboarding experience with technology. Beyond client expectations for technology integration, which, there's a growing demand for clients to want that kind of tech engagement. We're also seeing the demand coming from, these recent law graduates, younger attorneys, and even skilled associates. It's time to align the expectations from your clients and from your staff. And when it comes to technology, whether you've fully embraced it, you haven't fully embraced it, maybe you understand it, but you're not fully utilizing it, or maybe you have a practice management solution, but you're only using certain parts of it. Incorporating technology adoption like an all-in-one practice management software, it'll yield benefits across the firm. And overall, lawyers are in agreement. 91% say it's important to have access to the latest technology. So let's get into some of these top reasons leading firms are choosing technology. And the first one is really these client demands and the need to kind of easily access case details, information, tasks that they need to accomplish. Giving them access to like a client portal, it gives them this kind of perceived 24/7 accessibility and helps them kind of understand and self-navigate on what's happening with their case and maybe what they can do next without the constant call in and check in from your client. So leveraging that client portal is really huge for a lot of our customers. It enhances communication and fosters a remote collaboration opportunity. It's nice. You can work in your office. You can work on the go. We have a multi-factor authentication for PracticePanther, so security is definitely of utmost importance. And we want to have make it easy, for you guys to be able to work either in the office or on the go, and improves time tracking and management, which I don't think requires a lot of, talk about why that's important, but that's the whole reason we're here. We want to make sure we're tracking our time and getting paid for the work we're putting in. It supports really that informed decision making. There's really great analytics around practice management. And like I mentioned earlier, it really secures the security of your firm's information, which is going to be really, really important. And for this last slide, I want to really pass it over to Jennifer. She can kind of talk about the trends that we in these practice areas and what she's seeing.
Sure. So there are definitely some practice areas that are cyclical and some that are counter-cyclical. So you may, at your firm, want to think about your core practice. What is it that you want to grow? Do you want to get into one of these hot new areas? Do you want to deepen your bench strength in, an area you already have? Do you have a great bankruptcy group and you're just waiting for that tsunami of filings that we're hoping is going to come? I mean, that's really what we're looking at. So, in 2021 through at least the first half of 2022, M&A was so hot. There really weren't enough practitioners to do all of it. And some of you at the small and mid-sized firms may have experienced having talent stolen out from under you. There were six-figure signing bonuses. There was a lot of competition. There were crazy salary raises. And, there was a shortage of trained M&A associates, and it was really hard to find what you needed. All through, I came from a labor and employment background. We used to think of it as the slow and steady practice. And it's become what we call now the hot and sexy practice, because starting from the COVID shutdowns, going all the way through now, when we're looking at return to office policies and the litigation that may have been stalled during some of the court closures, there's a lot going on in labor and employment. There are a lot of issues coming up every day. And then, when we saw the fall off in the more traditional M&A, we saw that energy transactions were still busy, healthcare was still very busy. Some of the firms are trying to get into newer practice areas like maybe cannabis or the video gaming or crypto, things like that. Sometimes with a lot of success and sometimes not. It's hard to tell on some of those practice areas. But as a firm, you should be trying to cross-sell, cross-market as much as you possibly can, because that's the lowest hanging fruit. If you can serve a happy client in some other way with some other lawyer, that'd be great. A trend we see is that some firms are incentivizing that financially, and they're figuring out ways to, if I'm sitting at my desk and somebody asks me to go on a pitch meeting, if I only get paid for working on my own clients, I have to be really nice to get up from my desk 5 times this week, or fly to California for the pitch meeting, or go to a 3-day conference for it. But if you can work incentivizing it into awarding origination credit by matter instead of by client, having some sort of bonus pool for cross-selling, cross-marketing, including it in the way that you look at salary and compensation decisions at the end of the year, then you get the behavior that you're looking for. And a CLA tip that I think we all talked about pivoting during COVID, you can pivot your practice too. So if you have some associates or other lawyers that are not fully engaged, encourage them to get their CLE out of the way, right? We have to do that every year anyway. Maybe they can, an M&A associate can do some CLE in healthcare or energy and get into healthcare transactions or energy transactions. Or maybe the bottom falls out of the market entirely, and you tell them, well, our bankruptcy practice is going to be very busy, and a restructuring is really just a backwards M&A. So why don't you go take some restructuring CLEs, and then you can pivot into helping out in our restructuring practice instead. So those are some of the trends we've seen with the ups and downs in the marketplace.
Yeah, I love your point about the CLEs and really making them work for you. I love that. And also your point about being, incentivized, I think is a really kind of great way to look at it, because, you really want to reward those who are putting in the work, who are bringing in the work. And I think that's a really unique way to do it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right,
Absolutely.
so then I think that we should all think about being strategic in your hiring practices. Instead of reactive, you should think of it almost like, you have a big chessboard, and as a partnership, you want to think about what is your next move for this year? What are you looking at for 2024? What are you looking at for the next 5 years? We don't know what's going to happen. We've been expecting that tsunami of bankruptcy. We thought that M&A wasn't very busy, but yet the last quarter of 2023, M&A was very busy and there were more Chapter 11 filings. So it's always a little bit unknown, but you should think about, as a firm, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you want to double down on your existing practice areas and make sure you have deep bench strength and you can say yes to all of your clients? Do you want to try and incentivize more of that cross-selling, cross-marketing and get everyone working together at the firm? Are there some complementary practice areas you want to expand into? Is there a hot and sexy practice area that you think some of your people are interested in learning more about? Do you want to expand geographically? You know, there are all different ways that you can think about strategy. And then when somebody like me comes to you and says, hey, I've got this great partner candidate with millions of dollars of business, or this group or this small firm that wants to join your firm, you can react from your strategy. Instead of just being reactive, you think about, okay, well, we're trying to grow out our real estate practice and open a Chicago office this year. But, you know, Jen came to us and she has got this insurance defense group that has low rates, high volume, and they want to be based in Phoenix. Is that a really good fit? Probably not, because there are virtually no cross-selling opportunities. They don't have any clients in common. The billing scheme is different. The way that they have to staff everything is different. You can't get distracted by the big bag of money they're holding when they tell you they have $8 million of business. You have to think about how that business fits into your firm and how that's going to work for you. And I think that, you know, you can be a little bit flexible and a little bit proactive when somebody comes to you and says, well, there's this finance group and some of the clients are in common, or I know you were looking at Chicago, but we have an opportunity in a different city where you also have clients. Some of those things make sense in your overall strategy, but it really does help to stick to a strategy. And then when you start a small firm and gradually grow it to a medium-sized firm or even a larger firm, first off, a lot of people start as solo practitioners because they're leaving the larger firm environment and there are many things they don't like about it, or they never went to a larger firm because that was not something that they were interested in. So they get to a point where, they're sitting at their kitchen table with a laptop. They don't even need an office. They get to keep 95% of what they bring in. Costs are low. Everything's great. And that works for a little while. And then you notice that you're working nights and weekends and you're not getting work to your clients as fast as you wanted to because you're doing all this admin. You really shouldn't be changing the toner cartridge unless you are the world's best, fastest, most efficient toner cartridge changer. Because otherwise, you're taking time that you could be working on legal work or getting new clients, and you're risking having that toner explode all over you right before your court date or that big meeting to sign the deal that you're working on. So you should really think about offloading anything that's not in, we'll call it your zone of genius. Your zone of genius should be working on legal work, supervising somebody else's legal work, or going out and getting new clients, doing business development. It doesn't include ordering coffee or office supplies. It doesn't include setting up the printer that's going to take 2 hours and you say, well, I'm free. I don't want to hire somebody for $50 an hour. It might take 2 or 3 hours. What if that's $150? Well, if you charge $500 an hour for your legal work and you work on it for 3 hours, it costs $1,500. That's not a really good use of your time. You should be working on client work. If you don't have client work to work on, you should be doing some business development activity or spending some time on something you want to do, something with your friends or family, volunteering for a cause you care about. But certainly it's not a good use of your time to try and save money by not hiring somebody to do something that they're much better at, much faster at, and much less expensive for. So you delegate when somebody can do it better and cheaper, faster. And then when do you delegate? You think about delegating when you're not able to spend time working with clients or getting new clients as much as you would like, or you're just working too much. So probably the first thing to delegate is anything admin. So, if you don't have office space or you don't have a need for a full-time admin, you don't have to worry about it because there are VAs everywhere, virtual. And it's become more and more popular during COVID. You could be a fully virtual firm with people all over the place and nobody would ever know. It can be very seamless. You can have a virtual receptionist, a virtual legal assistant. There are all sorts of admin choices available to you. And then you get off your plate anything that's not client work or trying to get a new client. And, sometimes the next thing after that that makes sense is probably anything that you're really not good at. So, I would say for me, I was an English major in college. I went straight to law school. If I was running my own law firm and I run my own business now, I delegated accounting and bookkeeping pretty fast because that wasn't my zone of genius. I wasn't really confident in my ability to do it better than the accountant, and I was much slower. So if you like the numbers side of it, you might go to a paralegal or an associate before you go to accounting or billing. But, most of these larger firms have a whole section for accounting and billing because it does get, to be something that maybe lawyers aren't so good at. And then you can get to really high level people once you're done delegating for the things that are keeping you too busy. So if you're not getting to your client work fast enough, or you're not doing enough business development because you're doing low-level client work, consider whether a paralegal or an associate makes sense. And depending on practice area, one may be much better than the other for you. And you can leverage yourself until you have several associates and several paralegals working for you if that works. And then, you can have that C-suite that the bigger firms have just on a fractional basis. During COVID, it became very popular for very skilled professionals to be consultants and offer themselves for as little as a few hours a week or a few hours a month. And that way you get, the same help that AmLaw 100 firms have, and you get it at an affordable rate. I personally have a fractional CMO and a fractional COO. I just have them for a few hours a week. And that really has up-leveled what we do. And sometimes for your law firm, that might be the first thing to do. And then as you grow, maybe you want more and more hours and you get to the point where you want to hire somebody as an employee, but you don't have to make that commitment right away. So when we're talking about like who to hire and when it happens, as I said, I think you start with offloading as much of the admin as you possibly can, because that's just never going to be your zone of genius. Unless for some reason there's one little part of it that you love that you keep for yourself. You love to make spreadsheets, so you do that. But the rest of it is just getting in your way of finding clients and serving the clients. And then for those of you who don't like numbers, much like me, I would go for billing and accounting next. If numbers are your thing, I might go for a paralegal or lower level associate right away. And then you want to get to the point where you're working on things that are at the top of your ability and you're getting new clients. And you may want to offload some of that business development task work, let somebody set up that call, whatever a talk you're going to give or the seminar where you're going to speak or make the travel arrangements. I mean, I don't make my own slides because that's not in my zone of genius. And I have somebody who can do it much faster and better and cheaper than I can. So there are different things that you have to think about for yourself. And then you get to the point where you've leveraged as much as you possibly can. And it's time to have some more business generators. And for those of you who think it would be amazing to build out a 50 lawyer firm and be in charge of it, this is the fun part. You can bring in complementary practice areas. You can bring in people to give you more bench strength. You can expand in one location, expand to several locations. It could be very exciting for anybody who likes running a business. But for those of you who are sort of accidental law firm owners and really just meant to be a solo practitioner at your kitchen table with your laptop, and it just grew a little bit more than you thought, there's always the option to bring your practice and merge it into a medium-sized or larger firm instead. And that way you get the economies of scale and you get their C-suite and all of their staffing, but you don't have to be in charge of the admin anymore. And then we talked about those salary raises a little bit. I mean, during 2021, when M&A was at its absolute peak, I don't know how many of you follow the legal market so carefully like I do, but there was one firm in particular who offered a $250,000 sign-on bonus to a third-year associate. That's life-changing money, especially for a third-year associate who still has loans that he or she hasn't paid off, who might want to get married or buy a house. I mean, I was privy to some conversations where partners were encouraging their associates, go take the money. I would take it too. So, you are not going to be able to compete on money, and you shouldn't try. Your rates are not the same. Your volume is not the same. You're not really in the same um, financial ballpark, right? So paying $225,000 for a first-year associate at a small or medium-sized firm just doesn't really make sense. So what you should double down on is, what are the opportunities of being with you? And what I hear in the market from a lot of the associates is, you could work at one of these big firms for a little while till you burn out. But if you go to a smaller or mid-sized firm, you have the opportunity to have a career. You could stay for a long time. You have more of an opportunity to develop your skill set. You get more hands-on experience. You get more client contact. You get more mentoring and training. You have an opportunity to make partner and stay forever. You have an opportunity to learn how to do business development early on and get credit for it. So even though your salary might be less, you have the opportunity to augment that with your own business development efforts. And really, there's no ceiling to that. So you should be selling, what's special about your firm culture, what's really the selling point to clients. And then talk about, what is the selling point for a small or mid-sized firm over one of these very large firms. And I think that as long as you're able to make that point and also stick to it, if you tell them they're going to get more hands-on experience, don't stick them on a document review for 2 years. You have to really give them what you've promised. But there are a lot of really talented associates out there who are very happy to have those sorts of opportunities where they're looking at the long term, not at the 2 years that they're making those big dollars.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that work-life balance is a huge way to kind of compete and being able to offer, seeing kids' baseball games or theater and plays and things like that. It's just to really have the opportunity to spend time with friends and family and not have to work until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. It would be nice to kind of be able to offer those kind of things.
Yeah, and at some of those bigger firms, it's working overnight and not sleeping at all. They burn out pretty fast. So, if during the interview process, you can make a point of mentioning what you do outside of the office and the hobbies that you have or the time you spend with friends or family, and talk about how everyone at the firm has really important things that they like to do outside of the office, that would give a lot of credence to your work-life balance.
It's a good tip. That's a good tip. So I figured we'd kind of take it from here. I really appreciate those insights about growing your firm, especially in the strategic way. And so one of these kind of strategic things that we want to think about also is how you really incorporate technology in your hiring practices and even in your training practices, to ensure that the onboarding, the training is all going to be successful. You can utilize, you can visualize technology as really a powerful resource to help simplify your processes and enhance your team's efficiency. When you embrace technology, it shouldn't be perceived as an operational requirement or expense, like your staff. Technology is an investment in the future success and growth of your firm. So in this section, I want to highlight really some user-friendly solutions that can help bridge the gap to make technology work for you, and really, not the other way around. And so let's start here by discussing the role of technology in your hiring and retention practices. And chances are, we've talked about this a little bit, but partners in senior management, they may not always have the time to walk associates and new staff through every single step of the process. You may be working remote, as Jennifer mentioned, and so having kind of that hands-on mentorship is a little bit harder as well. But letting these new hires complete work without some kind of supervision or some kind of support, it's going to lead to kind of stress and anxiety on that new hire about what to do. And it can also lead to future problems with, potentially clients or with billables. So, you want to make sure onboarding is about integrating new hires into your organization. You want to familiarize them with your firm's policies, your culture, and their specific role and how it really will benefit and play into the firm's needs. So, first, when it comes to onboarding, we really want you to think of technology as engaging, as optimizing, and really as observing. And so for engagement, really it's your practice management software. It should efficiently and effectively engage your new hires. It should be intuitive and easy to use. I think we can all agree that if technology is difficult, hard to understand, maybe it's not user-friendly, there's really a reluctance to use it regardless of its benefits and how much assistance it says it's gonna, claim to help with. I think we've all been on a bad website before where we can't find the information that we need. So what do? We're gonna leave that website and go find something else. And so technology, that's just how it works. And so it's gotta be user-friendly, it's gotta be easy to understand to even get started. Onboarding serves really as a catalyst for then optimizing and then launching efficiency at your firm. It ensures that these new hires, they really start on the right foot. It plays a crucial role in the optimization process by really facilitating that seamless collaboration and communication with relevant staff, thereby really enhancing that, efficiency we talked about. With PracticePanther, there are several ways to communicate with staff and clients, from direct messages to notes. You can text with clients. You can even send secure encrypted messages. And so really kind of utilizing those different communication ways to and engage your other staff, and kind of really optimize them is going to be a great way to get rolling on the onboarding side. And then finally, it really kind of helps you observe from a distance. As you onboard, it creates reports for these new hires that help serve as an audit trail, know what they're accomplishing and where they might even be struggling, and you can help kind of solve some of those issues before they come into larger problems. And so having that audit trail or understanding what these new hires are doing without having that micromanaging feel is a really nice benefit. Other technology, kind of consider it, especially in the onboarding process, and especially when you're remote, it's got to be some kind of video conferencing. There's a lot of freemium services out there. You can really kind of just test what works for you. But that should definitely be in addition to some sort of, your all-in-one practice management software. When it comes to training, we're looking at ways it can integrate or streamline, centralize, and even automate. And I will be the first to admit, and we can, I think, all be candid about this, training your new hires, it's going to require time, and rightfully so. This is where your technology and hands-on training can be effective to kickstart this learning process. With the new hire training, you should really integrate your staff into the firm so they understand how to execute your firm's processes, from client intake and matter management, billing, and really everything in between. You want to streamline that process so new hires understand what to do next and who to turn to if help is needed. And then technology should really centralize all of this information. You can utilize a single source of truth. That's a really nice benefit within PracticePanther, is everything is housed in one central location. And then we can automate these key manual processes that tend to take that important time away from your higher value tasks. So in addition to kind of all-in-one practice management, I want to recommend 2 other technology resources to kind of help you document your processes for training. And that's going to be Scribe and Loom. Both of them are kind of screen record processes, and they both provide like a freemium service. So you can kind of try them on before you buy, which is definitely what I recommend doing. With Loom, it's like a really cool video recording. You can actually record your processes to show how new hires, or to show your processes to new hires. So you don't need a new hire around you. You can be at home by yourself. You can be in the office, but when you start the process, just record yourself on Loom, and then they can go back and replay that video anytime they want. They don't need to come to you unless they really have a specific reason. Scribe works in kind of the same way, but as it records your process, it actually turns it into a step-by-step guide that will help for staff to, to reference as they move forward. One tip is to document just one new process a day. It can feel overwhelming. You don't want to document everything at once. So document one new process a day. And by the end of the month, you'll have created a really robust training manual that you can kind of continue to build out. And this last one, as we talk about kind of technology's role in upskilling, it should empower, it should accelerate, and it should sharpen the skills of your current employees. Technology can provide continuous learning while giving staff an opportunity to provide input, especially for those who are working in it every single day. I can recommend a 30-minute meeting to wrap each month. Ask staff what they would do to improve processes or tasks or how they handle something within the system. And I bet you'll get some pretty useful insight. You can challenge them, maybe challenge your staff on how you can use different features. Can you use them better? Can you use more features? Are you not fully utilizing the technology you have? For PracticePanther, you can actually reach out to our tech support, and we have an onboarding team. And so we'll be more than happy to kind of help with that training. And we even do kind of advanced webinars, these interactive web trainings as well. And we even do CLEs. And as Jennifer mentioned, they're required every year, and you can use them to strategically upskill your staff. And so those are kind of some of the great ways you can utilize technology kind of throughout that training process. And so in the previous slide, we mentioned the automation just briefly. And so I thought we'd kind of take a moment and dive into that a little bit further on this side, because with automation, it'll kind of help your firm in these three important areas. We want to save time, we want to save money, and we can increase productivity. I think we can all get behind all these three benefits. With saving time, we really want to reduce that time spent on non-billable hours and non-billable tasks, whether that's part of your intake, whether that's part of your billing, any time that we can automate something and reduce that time. It also helps minimize those errors and any kind of redundancy that you might have in place. Saving money is always a big thing. Maybe, if you really focus on your processes and getting them organized in your practice management, you can avoid that additional staff and salary costs until you need to hire someone new. You can reinvest that time savings into higher value customer focused tasks. And you can even offer, there are a number of different ways that you can kind of better engage customers and save money as well. And inefficiencies in the end are going to cost more money. And then finally, that increased productivity. Put these repetitive tasks on autopilot. If you're having to constantly remind clients about meetings or to pay a bill, those kind of things should be taken off your plate, because they're a brain drain. They don't require any thought or any extra effort. It just takes time, and those things can be automated fairly easily. And that can impact employee happiness, which we're all here for. We want to keep our employees because we're providing your training. We want that hands-on experience. We want those employees to stay here and not move on to the next firm. And then ultimately, we can increase our response rates from clients, because clients are wanting these digital aspects as well. They want to be texted. They want to access the client portal. They want these kind of digital offerings, and automation can kind of help walk them through different processes. And so wanted to kind of take a moment and highlight that. And then when it gets into workflows, for a variety of reasons, I highly recommend workflows. In addition to kind of laying out your work processes for staff, I recommend you can start one for new hires as well. It allows them to easily follow and complete different tasks that need to happen. Because I think there's, as you will all probably agree, a lot of activity happening within your firm, on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So when you use workflows, it kind of helps aid some of the biggest challenges you face at your firm, which can be maybe miscommunication between staff or these manual and redundant processes. Inadequate tech training is going to be definitely one of them, because that really hampers those bottlenecks and delays to make sure things are completed on time in an efficient way. And so with workflows, they can be team-based. So whether you are working on something either by yourself, or maybe 3 or 4 people are involved in a matter, you can bring your entire team on a workflow. You can give priority statuses to different tasks. You can get specific notifications and reminders automatically sent to relevant parties, whether it's staff members or it could even be clients. They can get notifications and reminders as well. They're limitless. You can have as many workflows as you want. So if you have multiple practice areas, you can have different workflows for different intake or billing needs, workflows for your training, as we talked about. Use workflows to your advantage. And then you can kind of tag these workflows as well. It's great for reporting. And maybe you have an estate practice area in addition to family. And so you'll want to tag those workflows and make sure you're using the right one for the right client. Then again, we talk about that audit trail. being able to see exactly what's happening, when it's happening, and making sure it's happening on deadline. And then finally, being adaptable is going to be huge for workflows. The really cool thing within PracticePanther is you can duplicate workflows, you can edit and add, remove different steps, because you're going to find that your processes are going to change over time. And that's good. Things are going to get better. They're going to get more efficient. Maybe several steps get combined into one step. The workflows are adaptable, and they should be that way utilizing technology. So I think, workflows are going to be really immensely helpful on the new hire aspect and really starting to kind of train, and it really even walks them through the platform. And then let's get into time tracking and managing your time, because it's an extremely important for new hires to grasp. It should be introduced in the onboarding. It should be repeated throughout the new hire training, as it ensures your firm's going to get paid in a timely manner for the work you've already completed. Time tracking helps calculate two important metrics that your firms should already be closely monitoring, and as they are really tied to improving your firm's profitability. It's going to be your true realization rate, which is how much time you're working in a given week versus how much time you're billed for in that same week, as well as your billing realization rate, which is how much billable time you're actually invoicing for. So these are two really important things, and your time tracking can really help determine, that these are good rates. Within PracticePanther, we actually have 4 kind of unique ways that you can track your time. I wanted to kind of just run through those real quick. You have, as you see on the right, your traditional timer. You can run it, pause it, stop it, add detailed notes to it. You can even run multiple timers all at once. As soon as you hit that save button, it ties directly to a specific contact and matter. So it's super easy, already tied into your system. From there, you also have an opportunity. You can do a single new time entry, that green new button there on the right. Maybe you're on the go, you have to make a call or send a quick email. You can add a kind of a quick new time entry that way, or multiple time entries is also an option. I've seen actually customers, this is a really cool thing, they'll open a second tab just for time entries. And so as they're kind of going about their day, they'll just kind of add a new time entry as they complete a billable task. So that's kind of another option. And then finally, this last one is what we call our money finder feature. And so what I recommend is at the end of every week, really go through all of your tasks, and you can actually see what you maybe forgot to bill for. So over here on the right, you'll actually see what time was logged. And if you're seeing that no time was logged, you can actually hover over that task and immediately log time or a flat fee, depending on kind of what your firm offers. And so this money finder, even if you can find 1 or 2 tasks every week that you're not actively billing for, we're finding that this money finder feature actually pays for the software in and of itself, which is really cool. We get a lot of great feedback from our customers.
Yeah, well, I think everybody on this call understands that if you're not billing for it, you're not collecting for it. And if you have people who are entering their time in a different month, you're going to be writing off a lot of that time. You can't send a client a bill much later and expect them to still pay it. So this is a wonderful option.
Yeah, and I think in addition to kind of what or kind of maybe goes hand in hand with monitoring your time is really just monitoring your success in general, utilizing reports and things like that. Jennifer, I'm sure you have a ton of reports you're running at the end of every month, just to find out what's happening and, running and understanding the logistics of your firm. And these performance analytics really help you understand what tasks are being completed. Like you can run for new hires specifically, and you'll find out where they're struggling. Maybe they aren't performing the right tasks, or they're falling behind. It can also help you find and improve, gaps in your training processes. Just like with your law firm processes, your new hire processes can always be amended and improved upon. So some of the reports that, we can kind of consider depending on the new hire role that you're looking to is the productivity reports. That's really great for anybody and everybody, just kind of seeing what they're up to and making sure the tasks are being completed in a timely manner and on deadline. We have those originating attorney reports, as Jennifer mentioned, and a lot of people are really utilizing those to making sure they're getting rewarded for the business that comes in. And you can even tag people on top of that. So if you have multiple attorneys on that originating report, there's several different tags you can run. We have last action reports, when a new hire last left a certain client. You have time entries by a specific user or a specific matter or a specific contact. And even, if you have a hiring for billing, you have those AR aging reports as well. So within PracticePanther, there are probably about 10 different types of reports. And once you kind of get into those reports, you even have more reports. So like you'll have a time management report, and there'll be 5 or 6 different reports under time management you can run, which is really nice. And then you can also customize your own reports depending on your needs. And then here we are. We're kind of wrapping up the presentation today. So we've talked about key trends we see. We've talked about importance of strategic hiring, technology's role in this process. And we want to take a moment and really wrap the presentation with a quick look into the future. And I will let kind of Jennifer take it from here.
Sure. So, I mean, I think PracticePanther sounds like a really good way to use technology effectively. I know sometimes lawyers aren't so excited about technology, but it sounds like it's easy to use, and even I might like it. I think that when you're looking for talent and you're competing in these high cost of living markets for those associates who want to start out at $225 an hour, you might want to think about going a little further afield. Depending on whether you can use people hybrid or fully virtual, you can get into places where it's a little bit less expensive to live, and the salary at your firm seems very generous, and they're not looking for that 225 to start. And that kind of helps you, find, for especially for those national practices, if you're talking about corporate tax or immigration or IP or a lot of parts of transactional work. It doesn't really matter if somebody's sitting in Kansas City or New York City, but you can get a better candidate and pay a salary that your firm can afford by looking outside of New York City. And getting referrals, the Bar Association may be able to help you. I would tell you that NALSC, which is a national organization of legal search consultants, is a good place to look. The search firms like mine that belong to NALSC all take an ethics pledge. So, you're starting out with firms that are going to be ethical to work with. And they even have a member directory you can search for wherever it is that you're looking. And, we talked about how you're going to have to keep an eye on compensation as those larger firms keep offering raises and raises and raises. You have to figure out a way to help associates win. So if you can't match those salaries, could you perhaps offer them some business development coaching and help them to bring in their own clients and give them a percentage of it early on? Is there a different way for them to augment their salaries? Or, as I said, can you look outside of, the higher cost of living cities and hire somebody where your salary seems better? And, the work-life balance is really important. But keep in mind that work-life balance means different things to different people. So because you love to coach the Little League team and you like to sign back onto your computer at 9 o'clock at night, doesn't mean the new hire likes the same thing. So any flexibility or independence or autonomy you can offer in when they get their work done so that it can line up with the needs that they have at that moment in their life, whether they're dating or they have a new baby at home or they want to train for the marathon, it will really engender a lot of loyalty to your firm. And there are a lot of large firms that went after every single lawyer there was out there when they had to staff up for the M&A practices, and then they did a whole bunch of massive layoffs, and they're staffing up a little bit too much for bankruptcy, and maybe they're going to let some people go. You can benefit from that. None of those associates did anything wrong. The firms overhired. There's a chance to make a case for why a smaller or mid-sized firm is a better atmosphere, better for their career. And maybe you can pick up some of those people who were laid off from those higher cost of living, higher paying firms in those high cost of living cities. Maybe you can pick somebody up for your firm.
Fantastic. Well, that really kind of wraps our conversation today. We really appreciate everybody kind of hanging out with us for the last hour and talking about different ways you can kind of empower and really hire that perfect staff. And wanted to offer, 2 different codes up here for you. If you have any questions about practice management, whether you're a PracticePanther user or maybe you utilize the technology, but not with PracticePanther, and you want to know how maybe we can solve a few more of your pain points, you can kind of get either to the practicepanther.com demo, or you can scan that QR code. And then, just schedule some time that works best for you, that works best, if you want to connect with a couple people in your team and I'll have a demo all at once. We'd love to kind of talk with you about the pain points you're seeing and see how we can help solve. And then for Jennifer, if you wanted to talk about what you have up here.
Sure. So, we are a recruiting agency. If you're wondering whether your firm is the exact right perfect fit for you, or if you could do a little bit better, we do have an interactive quiz that you could participate in that might be fun. For those of you that are looking to figure out what your strategy is for 2024, we have a business planning document that you might want to work with. And just generally, I make a point of offering all the career advice I can. And if there are any of you out there who have any questions about whether, your practice area is going to survive in the future, whether you're being paid fairly, whether other firms are doing things differently, I'm always happy to give a few minutes to answer some of those questions.
Fantastic. And then this kind of a quick repeat right now. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A. We have just a few minutes left. And I also kind of want to just take a moment. Jennifer and I are both on LinkedIn. We'd love to kind of connect and engage with you there. Her and I both kind of talk a lot on LinkedIn, talk about what we're experiencing and what we're running into, and we'd love your insight, add to it, add questions and comments and shares like that. So please look for us on LinkedIn. Let us know you met us here in this webinar, and we'd love to connect that way too.
Yes, that would be great. I'm a very heavy LinkedIn user.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it looks like we have just another question come in about training. The whole presentation was really, training staff, training and upskilling your current staff. But when it comes to technology training, what does that really look like? And so I just kind of wanted to take a quick minute and let you know that we're here to help you 100% of the way when it comes to training you and training your associates and training your staff. Training is included in part of the PracticePanther. Once you become a PracticePanther customer, you'll have full access to all of our trainings. You'll have access to a support team. We have a help center, and we even do these really cool monthly advanced trainings even. And so that's kind of all part of the package that you get is you actually have complete support. So whether it's day 3, day 30, or maybe you're 3 years in and you need to understand on maybe you're not utilizing something to the best of your ability, or maybe you want to find out if there's an area that you're not utilizing at all. We've had these kind of conversations where we let people know, we let our customers know how they can more efficiently use technology to kind of better their firm. So that's kind of one way that we definitely want to talk about that.
Sounds
Awesome.
like a really comprehensive product. If I
Yeah.
ran a law firm, I might be very tempted right now.
Well, we'd love to talk to you. Yeah,
Well,
and
I do think that you've made a very good case for how technology could pick up the slack from how hard it is to hire talent in this market. If you can automate certain processes and keep the staff that you have, or hire in a more strategic way instead of just hiring the first person out there, then you can make better long-term choices.
absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned, kind of reaching out to you and your team on, what they're looking for and what looking to do. And I think you'll have a lot of great resources for them as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. And we really appreciate your time. I know you could spend it in a lot of different ways. We appreciate you spending it with us.